The number one seed in the West could be without their second leading scorer. Karl-Anthony Towns has suffered a left meniscus injury. Cat is in his 9th season with Minnesota, and this is by far the best team they've had during his tenure. Our senior NBA insider, Adrian Wojnarowski, reported this news early this morning. So, Woj, what can you tell us about Cat's health?
Shanae, a left meniscus injury for Karl-Anthony Towns. He's getting further evaluation today, and both he and the team, the doctors, are trying to decide whether Karl-Anthony Towns is going to need an immediate action, whether there needs to be a procedure, or can he continue to play with some, form of rehab. And that's what they're evaluating right now. They expect to have an answer, fairly soon, but it's still unclear about how much time, if any, Karl-Anthony Towns will miss with this left knee injury. Certainly he's had an outstanding season for a team that's atop the Western Conference standings, 22 points a game, 43% from three, made his 4th All-Star game this season. But I think we'll know more here, perhaps in the next 24 hours, about the extent of this left knee injury and the possibility that Karl-Anthony Towns, again, may have to get a procedure or will be able to play through this, perhaps address it in the offseason. That's what they're trying to decide. That's a very difficult decision. Now, if he is out for a significant amount of time, is there still hope for him to get back in the playoffs? That's unclear, Shanae. I think right now there are no timelines. There's no procedure set. But I think potentially certainly the hope is that if there is some sort of procedure that he could get back, especially with a team built to make a deep playoff run. But I think it's still premature. I think they've got to decide the severity of this injury and what the course of action is going to be required. Okay, Woj, thank you so much. Please stick around because given this news, here is how the Timberwolves have fared with and without Cat on the floor. They have been much better offensively with Towns on the floor, obviously, this season. But their concern is that their 106 offensive efficiency with him off the floor, that is worse than the last-ranked offensive team, the Memphis Grizzlies. And I really want to get our NBA senior writer, Brian Windhorst, his take on this. Because, Brian, what does this injury prognosis mean for Cat and the Timberwolves, given that they're going to be missing for some time someone that gives you, 22 points a game and is a 42% three-point shooter?
Well, you don't just replace an all-star. That's clear, no matter how much time he misses. The Wolves are equipped with some reasonable depth in their big man spots. In the initial response here, I think you will see Kyle Anderson spend more time playing the power forward position. Also, they have Naz Reid to bring off the bench to be part of their big man rotation. Naz Reid is one of the best backup big men in the league. And I think what you'll see, especially with Anderson, is that the Wolves will be able to be a little bit quicker. One of the things that you see with Karl Towns, as great of an outside shooter as he is, he does slow the team down a little bit. So one of the things that they're going to have to do to generate offense is to get going a little bit and move the ball in transition. This is not necessarily a season-ending situation for the Wolves. They are equipped. They are an excellent defensive team, even when Karl is not on the court, and they have a good, deep roster. I think the important thing for them is try to do whatever you can to get Karl Towns in position to play in an eventual series with the Denver Nuggets. And that might hopefully not be for a long time from now, which leaves a lot of options on the table. As LeBron said, he's been dealing with this ankle for a while. So how concerned, Woj, are the Lakers about this long term?
Jenny, not so much long term, but probably, for the rest of this season. This is an injury, as Dave McMenamin described last night. That's a wear and tear injury on that left ankle. I was told today, that it's something LeBron James has had to manage throughout the season, especially since right prior to the All-Star break. And he's going to continue to have to manage this ankle injury, through the rest of the season. This is still a player in his 25th year, that is among the league leaders in points at the rim. He is, certainly planting hard on that ankle. He is not a jump shooter at this point in his career. So, you are going to put a lot of stress on that ankle. Again, 21st season, 39 years old. This is just part of what LeBron James has to manage now. And that doesn't mean there won't be some days off perhaps between now and the end of the year, to help manage that. But I'm told there's no expectation that he's going to have to miss time if it, just continues to be what it has been. And that's sort of an on again, off again pain tolerance issue for him.
So a number of teams having to manage their stars in the West. Thank you, Woj, for joining us and giving us these updates for these key players down the stretch. We'll talk to you again soon. Now, since the Lakers will be running it back soon, let's dive into this matchup further. Sabonis has gotten the better of AD when guarding each other in these matchups half court. But, if you look at this overall, it's the points. It's also the assists where he has truly separated himself. So we've got two of the best bigs in Sabonis and AD matching up, and they're going to have a rematch again soon. Now, it should have been a battle of the bigs, but maybe you didn't see so much battle on Los Angeles' part?
Well, I would have a lot to say to that defense, particularly in the second quarter. But looking to this matchup with Sabonis, hold up, let's stop right here. First of all, you see Sabonis up guarding the pick and roll. So when we're talking about these matchups, I think Sabonis' try-hard factor, the attention to detail, he's up, he's engaged in this this pick and roll. And if you let it roll here, he keeps the ball in front. They stop the ball, stop right here. And he's picking the ball, he's in front. And the name of the game with Sabonis is angles, right? He has figured out these angles going against Anthony Davis. So here, he does a great job knowing the scout moves his feet, takes the bump and contact, and still verticality at the rim. That's a tough shot, okay? He wins that battle. We go down to the other end now on the offensive end. Stop. AD, where you at, man? I know you're in a drop. You're pushing on the sidelines. I get it. You can still be up and involved. A little bit of presence on the ball. Because what happened throughout the course of the game, not just with this matchup, is the ball penetration got way too deep into the Laker defense. And if you run it right here, we have no physicality on the ball. Stop right here. Impact the ball. You're doing nothing back there.
He's chilling.
He's chilling. Come on, AD. Come right here. You can still get this angle back and keep him up. And instead of meeting Sabonis down here at the rim as we run it, you'd be meeting him up here. Again, just too deep into the gut of the Laker defense.
Yeah, I think you were joking, before the show. You could have been out there, playing a little bit of defense as a guard, fighting over the screens. But this is what's crazy right here. It wasn't just last night. In his career, Sabonis is 9-0 head-to-head versus Anthony Davis, and they will meet again, as I mentioned earlier, in a week. So we will see what happens. So, Scott, what concerns you the most from what you saw from the Lakers last night?
Well, Becky touched on it beautifully at the end. Is that penetration into the lane. And as any basketball player or basketball coach knows, that is how you beat a defense, is penetrating constantly. And that's the worst thing a defense can happen to a team defensively. De'Aaron Fox got into that lane all night for easy layups, easy floaters, 32 of his 44 points. It forces defensive teams to start to rotate, help too much, and that's where we know a lot of mistakes are made during those times. So the Lakers are going to have to shore that up because they get into the playoffs, they're going to see Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who can get downhill. They're going to see Anthony Edwards, who can get downhill. Jamal Murray, who can get downhill. So the list goes on and on. They got to show up that perimeter defense.
And Becky, you just did an excellent job breaking down the issues with AD, sort of not being aggressive on defense. But Brian, more than likely LeBron will need some nights off down the stretch. Can AD carry the team on those nights, especially offensively?
Well, AD's actually having a really great season. He had his 50th double-double of the year. But that stat that we showed a second ago, that Sabonis is 9-0 against AD in his career, that is very relevant, not just because they're playing again here in a few days in Sacramento, but because this is lined up to potentially be a play-in matchup, potentially a winner-take-all matchup to advance. And, the thing about Sabonis is he's really tough to deal with in near the basket. He's number one in the league in rebounding, and he's the best defensive rebounder in the league. When he plays AD, he takes away the offensive rebound. That's a big part of AD's game because over the last 2 or 3 seasons, he's just stopped taking those outside shots. If you go back and look, he's nowhere near the same outside shooter that he was when the Lakers won the title back in 2020. And when you don't have Sabonis in space, that plays to his advantage. And it's played to his advantage in these last 9 matchups. And it's a schematic thing, and it's something for the Lakers to be concerned about, not just for the standings, but for the actual head-to-heads with the Kings, which there could be some giant ones in the very near future.